Welcome to What Could Go Right, a podcast about living boldly on and off the water. I'm Eric Orton.
I'm Emily Orton. On this podcast, we explore adventure, connection, and stepping into a more intentional life. And we don't just talk about it. We invite you to join us on guided sailing trips around the world.
And if you stick around to the end, you'll hear our sailing update where we share where we're going, when, and which trips still have space. And you'll hear a sailing takeaway from somebody who's already come on a trip with us. In 2014, we bootstrapped a year on a fixer-upper sailboat with our 5 kids. We wrote a book about it called 7 at Sea, and that became a New York Times top 10 travel book.
Let's dive in. What if the reset you've been craving isn't a new routine, a new app, or a big life change? What if it's simply putting yourself near the water? In 2025, National Geographic put out an article that confirms what sailors have known forever. Just being by the ocean literally changes your brain, your stress levels, your sleep, and even your relationships. So today we're going to break down what's actually happening, respond to this article, and hopefully you'll come away knowing why a few days on the water might be one of the most powerful resets that you can give yourself. Okay, this article by Emma Lowe in the National Geographic magazine in May of last year is talking about probably what you've seen in movies, how especially in England, people would be sick or stressed out and their doctors would say, oh, you need to go spend time near the seaside for several months and then hopefully you'll regain your health. Or there's like these minerals that are gonna help you get healthy. And a lot of those early elements of sea therapy, they say, have since been disproven. Researchers started wanting to look into this after a study in 1984 where they showed patients who had just come out of operations healed faster when their rooms had views of natural spaces rather than viewing like a brick wall. And that is kind of what set off all the research to look into, we have this anecdotal experience, but they're like, let's study it. Let's find out what is really going on here. So there's this environmental psychologist named Matt White, who's also a surfer and an outdoor swimmer. And he started doing work on this in 2010. He had discovered that people tended to rate photos of natural and urban environments as more attractive if they had some sort of water element in them. And this study has been cited thousands of times. And so it made him ask this question, like, what actually happens in your body when you spend time at the beach, when you spend time near the ocean? And the first thing they discovered is that more water equals less stress.
I think they should definitely bring this prescription back. The idea that you need to take a vacation or you need to get close to the water, having a doctor say that to you, I think that would be well received.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably not by the pharmaceutical companies, but by the patients.
Insurance may not cover it.
I think insurance should. If they're going to cover all kinds of other crazy stuff, they should definitely cover this.
Like not only preventative, it can be preventative, but also restorative. So one of the first things that happens is what environmental psychologists refer to as attention restoration, when your mind starts to relax and take note of your surroundings in a softer, less cognitively demanding way. This Matt White, who I told you about earlier, he and his colleagues analyzed data from over 4,000 respondents and checking between green and blue spaces, and the coast rated slightly higher than woodlands and mountainous landscapes as being beneficial. So that made me think of our trips, because when people are coming into some of these sailing trips, sometimes when they hear that they're going to be on a boat for 5 to 7 days, they think they're going to be like out in the middle of the big blue ocean with no access to land. One of the frequently asked questions is, will we go to land? How often? Will we ever go to shore?
And the answer is every day. We're off the boat every day, if at once, if not at least more than once.
There's 0 times that you aren't anchored by a coastline
at night,
or on a mooring ball or a dock. Like 100% of the time, you're by a coast at night, and the majority of the time, probably 90% of the time, you're by a coast or in a coastal view.
Yeah.
While you're sailing, rarely that you're out of sight of land. There's a couple of spots.
Yeah, I can think of one spot on one trip in the Bahamas when we go from Nassau out to the Exumas where you can't see anything but water for a few hours.
And what about going to Anegada in the British Virgin Islands? Do
You
you go out of sight of land?
you can't see Anegada when you're going to it, but you can
Oh,
always see the other islands
you can
behind you.
that's true, you can always see the other islands, yeah. So, I guess I'm just saying on these trips, we're, like, in the premium
We're in according to this study, we're a real catch.
yeah, it's the premium experience for how nature creates this effect of attention restoration, helping you feel more relaxed. And it says, they're like, these are the results. We don't know why exactly this is the result, but what they suspect is that it has to do with the scale and the immersive soundtrack and expansive views that never seem to end. And I mean, can you speak to that in relation to our trips, like the immersive scale, the soundtrack, the natural water soundtracks, and just these views that go on forever?
What do you mean speak to it?
Like
Yes, that happens.
that's like that's like
That's
all the time.
yeah, I mean, I'm curious what they mean by soundtrack because when
I
I'm on a boat, I'm also listening to all the sounds the boats make
it's a
as
different soundtrack. Yeah.
right. But yes, there's wind, there's the sound of water passing under the hull when we're sailing, when we're at anchor, there's sort of the the water lapping, there's a breeze, steady breeze in most places. In some cases when we're in the Mediterranean, there's the sound of just the town or the village. And there's the sound of seabirds and yeah, we're not in an acoustically isolated space. Oftentimes, I mean, when I'm at home and I have the windows shut and the doors closed, I hear very little of what's happening in the outside world.
It's pretty quiet until our daughter comes home from school.
It's very quiet. But like if I want to hear the birds or if I want to hear the cars going by, I have to open my windows. But I can pretty much acoustically isolate myself. And on a boat, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think the studies might be referring to the sounds of the water and even the ocean waves. We might not always be hearing waves because we're trying to, when we're at rest, be in like protected
Yeah.
bays.
I mean,
But like when we're on a hike but yeah, the lapping of the water, just that it's just a constant, it becomes a background noise. It's not like, oh my gosh, that water won't stop, but it is a soothing sound. And I know I've even said, we live in a drought state where they care a lot about water. And I'm like, I want a water feature. Like, I want it to be recycling itself, but just that sound of water, I can feel it like relaxes my shoulders. It puts me at ease. And I feel that on the water as well.
yeah, a point about what is it? Expansive views that seem to never end. I mean, yeah, that's the definition of looking out at the ocean and just knowing that there's a horizon, but beyond that is more ocean. And if you go out another mile offshore, there's going to be more ocean over the horizon. And if you keep going, there's just going to be more and more until you get to Africa or Europe. And so, expansive, yeah. And then at night, depending on the clouds, you can lay out on deck and look at the stars. So it's just, yeah, it's like it's as big as it gets. There's big sky country in Montana and there's big sky country on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you say it's not just the expansive view of the ocean and seeing islands further out there or ocean beyond that, but also being able to see the sky in a different way during the daytime and also especially at night because a lot of the times we're in places that are experiencing very little light pollution
Mhm.
and you're able to see the stars so much more clearly. I like that you brought up the horizon. That was something else that this author, Catherine Kelly, who wrote Blue Spaces, How and Why Water Can Make You Feel Better. There's a whole book about it. We're just talking about one article today. She says, we're invited in a kind of effortless way to bring our attention to the horizon. There's this sense of awe where we get perspective on our problems and feel part of something bigger than ourselves. So when we connect with that vast view and we see this horizon, it kind of shifts our perspective, maybe gives us that 30,000 foot view. And I don't know. I know for me personally, it had this combination effect of making me feel smaller and my problems feel smaller, recognizing a lack of control. Like I can't control the weather, I can't control the ocean. I'm just here responding to this environment while also making life feel so precious and so beautiful and filling me with gratitude, which I guess maybe this author is describing as that sense of awe.
Well, it makes me think of something that you and I will often say about going to a new place. And when we do go, we kind of develop this habit instinctively, but maybe it's grounded in what this article is talking about is that we'll do one of two things and ideally both of them. We'll get close to the water in that place. And that might mean if there's a river running through town, we'll go to the river and just
Mhm.
walk along the river or get to the river's edge. Or if there's a lake or if there's a coastline or a beach, we'll go there. And that's kind of like we want to establish the low. And then we'll also, if there's a high point or an overlook, and sometimes that's, a clock tower, sometimes that's a hill, sometimes that, it can be a number of things, but we'll want something that gives us a vantage point of the whole as much as possible from a high point. And we've sort of realized, oh, we like to go to the water's edge and we like to go to the high point. And that sort of grounds us and we feel like, okay, we have a sense of this place. If this was a
Mhm.
puzzle, we've put the four corners in and we kind of have the edge. And now we can start to fill in the middle. But I think getting to this perspective, and whether the big perspective or the water's edge, I think it is grounding and expansive.
Yeah, it's really powerful in both directions. So I have a question. When you are taking people out for a trip and let's say everybody arrives, at the same time, how long does it like when do you start noticing people really relaxing?
Hmm. This might be a cop out answer, but I'm going to say it varies
Sure, of
because
course.
when you said people arrive at the same time,
I just know sometimes people might come 2 days early and they're gonna already be more relaxed for sure than
okay.
someone who just showed up that afternoon.
I was gonna say because people arrive at different times, and sometimes they've been there for 3 days on island before they get to the boat, and sometimes their connecting flight just landed an hour ago, and they come straight to the boat, and
Yeah, so go for that person. The person who,
um,
like, shows up that day, about what does it look like for them to relax?
I don't know. It doesn't take long because day one is really just getting to the boat. You get to you settle into your cabin, you unpack. I like to have everyone pitch in as soon as possible, helping get the provisions organized. And right away, people start connecting and feeling involved, which I think is good. And then we all go have dinner. And I think by the next morning, like everyone's in a good mood, everyone's having a good time at that point. But I feel like the moment where I feel like it kind of clicks is when we actually pull out of the marina and we get the sails up. And once we're sailing and then we turn the engines off, there's like this magic moment when everyone's like, we're actually sailing. And I don't know if it's relaxing. I think it is, but there's sort of a magic in it. And you're out in the wind and you're moving across the water and it's deeply satisfying and calming but also a little bit exhilarating at the same time, and I think that's when people smile. That's
Mhm.
when they smile the most, and they get out their phones and start taking pictures of the sails going up or of each other, helping with the ropes and things like that. And so we're having a good time well before then, but that's sort of like kind of a kickoff moment, I guess, when
Yeah.
people settle into what the week is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think by the time people have arrived, they've largely let go of what they left behind. They've tied off loose ends or like there's nothing I can do about it now, right? Like I'm in a new place, but there's still some kind of uncertainty in the energy that's like, oh, I'm just meeting you for the first time or oh, I have a task to do that I haven't done before. And it is good. It does start that team building and crew building and getting a sense of belonging and purpose on the boat. And I think for me, I would say exactly what you said. I've experienced that with the groups as well. And then I think like day two, when you've done everything one time and now everything you're doing, you're away from the dock, you have all your food, and now it feels like we've raised and lowered the sails, we've dropped the anchor, we've done everything we're going to do once through. And now
And
I
we're
can just
so
like really lean into it and relax and just I'm sitting here the morning of day two, waking up on a boat at anchor, surrounded by these expansive views and the sound of the water lapping. And I feel like a mood shift really starts to happen in days two and three, where people like really lean into it and just their mind slows down and they're really noticing and taking time in there. Yeah, I agree that you do a great job helping everybody open up by having tasks and expectations and fun, the dinner together. And there is that exhilaration. And I just think that it all loosens up by that second morning. Anyway, I think it's really great. And this theory says, according to attention restoration theory, um, the most mentally restorative landscapes tend to be, quote, softly fascinating. The scenery is dynamic enough to hold our attention, but predictable enough to allow our minds to relax, which is
Like you,
like the ocean.
soft.
I'll take it. Yes, thank you. They did research on waves specifically and saying that they demand that presence and focus, and that presence and focus frees you from worries or ruminations. And I know one of my favorite things to do is to stand at the very, very front of the boat between the foresail, the jib, and just the edge of the boat. I kind of just shimmy myself in between there and watch the waves go up and down when we are sailing forward through the water, just anticipating them and feel the breeze, hear the sounds every now and again. The water will splash up, and it is that like I'm not really thinking about anything else. It's just really relaxing. So I can confirm that I've had that experience in these blue spaces. There's something, they call it the blue gym. I don't know if you have any comment on this. I don't have a lot to say about it. They just said that when people are in green spaces, they tend to like exercise or work out more intensely, but in blue spaces or near water, they'll work out less intensely but go for longer periods of time.
Well,
I don't really have anything to say about that, but if you do.
sure. I just think you and I have talked about this a lot, that living on a boat, when we lived on a boat, I did not work out at all.
At all.
So I guess I can corroborate that. But I did get healthier. I got fit. I lost a lot of weight.
You moved more than sitting at
And
your desk for sure.
and I didn't do any one thing for like a 20-minute block or a 30 or 60-minute block. But just throughout the day, I was moving, maintaining my balance on the boat, stepping up and down because boats are just like that. They're multi-layered, getting in and out of the water, going to and from shore, all of that gradual, gentle movement. And I think in addition, we ate differently. I ate less.
Everything had to
And
be made from scratch. Yeah.
so I ate a different diet, but I also was moving at a low, in a more than being still,
Yeah.
a lot more than being still sitting at a desk, but never working out, like doing crunches or push-ups or jumping jacks. I mean, I think I did push-ups like twice in a year, but
We did a little bit of swimming, but it wasn't like, "Hey, let's go for a daily swim."
no, I never went out and was like, oh, I'm swimming here to shore and back every day, but I got a lot leaner. So I think that was my personal experience.
Yeah. I would say both of those elements are really important, and it's when we yeah, don't come on one of these trips for the physical fitness aspect of it because we have push button sails that we're raising. In our boat, we had to raise them by hand. And also, you'll eat out at restaurants and you won't just have oatmeal for breakfast, which is what I made our kids eat. It'll be delicious. But I do think that these mental benefits will be there. In fact, they said they thought that the reason that people worked out for longer periods of time was because by the water, people perceive time as being more expansive. So that's pretty cool. The next thing they talk about is how it actually improves sleep. And this is like even if you just go to the beach, I'd say it's even increased if you're actually on a boat. That's been the situation for me. They say that if you're in these blue spaces, it correlates with a lower likelihood of sleeping less than 6 hours a day. Like that your quality of sleep and the length of time you sleep will go up. And I mean, I know that I'm not always the one listening for every beep and whistle that or pump that might occur on a boat. And I know those sounds wake you up as the captain. But just as far as sleeping, at the end of the day of being out in the sun and the wind, maybe swimming or snorkeling or hiking, rinsing off with fresh water, maybe even fresh warm water, and then tucking into like this cradle of a bed that where the water's lapping against the sides of the boat. I mean, I sleep hard. I love that feeling of tucking in on a sailboat at the end of the day.
It is kind of cool to have your bed moving ever so slightly. And I don't know that it's like, if you want to get all psychological about it, you could say, oh, it's like being back in your mother's womb or something, or being rocked as a baby. I don't know, but there is something really peaceful about it. And just kind of feeling your body shift, through the night. It's never really, it has to be pretty substantial to wake me up,
Mm.
but it's a nice feeling,
Yeah.
both going to sleep and sort of in that pre pre-opening your eyes, waking up feeling you sense that you're actually slightly in motion even though you're just laying there, and it's soothing.
Yeah, and then the next great thing is that you open your eyes and you look out your window in your cabin and you see the ocean and a coastline and maybe a green island and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I just woke up in the ocean." Yeah,
Mhm.
it's pretty incredible. Their studies have proven that these nature landscapes actually help reduce pain, somehow diverting where our brain is being most active as we experience pain. They did this with a dentist office. They actually put VR headsets on people. Like, well, we're not going to have all dentists set up operation at the beach, but we could use the virtual reality headsets and simulate a coastline or things like that. And the people had significantly lower levels of pain during treatment when they had a coastal landscape before them rather than like walking through a city or something like that, cityscapes.
If our dentist was set up at the beach,
You'd go more
I'd
often.
go more often.
More than twice a year.
Yeah, I'd be like, "I need a 3-month cleaning,
Yeah.
and every 2 months I need a cleaning."
So, anyway, this is just like the neurological basis for how it might help you deal with pain. That isn't really something that we usually get into because hopefully we're avoiding injury and things like that. But
I do wonder about this though, is that there's sort of a unspoken consensus amongst our country or people around the world that like there's something like going to the beach is like a highly desirable vacation or,
mhm.
or blue water, sailing islands, that's like some sort of pinnacle of vacation.
Like as humans, we're drawn to water.
And I'm kind of like, is this a result of lots of marketing? Is this a result of just sort of, no, I don't want to say peer pressure, but just like everyone else is doing it? Like, like, is it because in some ways it feels exotic, or is there something more foundational that helps us feel like this is actually really, really healthy and restorative and soothing? And so we seek it out, and the marketing and all those other external influences are sort of a byproduct of this innate draw or impulse to be in these environments. And I like to think that it's something that we're just naturally humanly drawn to. I do wonder if we just sort of, if the marketers just pile it on, and that's actually not a dream vacation for a lot of people, which is true. Some people
Mhm.
don't enjoy being on the water, don't enjoy being in the beaches, and don't care if the water's blue. But anyway, I just kind of wonder. Like, I feel like it's rooted in something more foundational within us.
Well, it looks like that's what these environmental psychologists are discovering is that we feel better. We feel more relaxed. We feel like our problems are smaller. We feel like we can let go of some of our worries and we feel less pain, apparently. And one of the final things that they've discovered is that blue spaces can help build social cohesion. So, families going to the water or families or friends going to the water together, going to the beach, it actually facilitates connection. And that even, I love this, it said blue spaces can help build social cohesion in unrelated individuals as well. Maybe if it's something you did a lot as a child, it will also trigger a sense of nostalgia and well being. But we've found this to be completely true as we take out groups of people who very often don't know each other and they get that sense of relaxation, that sense of presence, that expanded time, that mental wellness, that good sleep. And on the boat, also this sense of purpose and belonging and teamwork. And they become a crew, you know? They become a crew. We had interviewed our bareboat charter instructor, and he talked about crew, and he said, a crew is not family, they're not your kin, but they're more than friends because you have this shared purpose and goal that you're working for. And we've seen that over and over again. And maybe we thought it was the activity and possibly the fact that it's happening on the water
The
or near the
environment.
water is also part of that social cohesion. And it's like this stacking effect. Let's see, I had taken a note about this stacking effect. There's a difference between going for just a few hours or a few days immersion, which is what we do, versus just a little exposure. But if you're feeling mentally relaxed, you're up for more activity maybe more gentle activity, but for a longer period of time. And you feel like you're totally present and focused and your problems aren't taking up your whole brain, but you're seeing the horizon and you're with these other people. And it just seems like all of those things stack together to have a compounding effect of being just like a perfect situation for a relaxing reset, an awesome vacation. And just like it's really good for you. Anyway, that was
The,
kind of my takeaways from the article.
the science is in. Sailing with us will change your life for the better. or with anybody. Sorry.
Yeah,
Just being on the water and
yeah,
with other people.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but we're here to help.
and their conclusion is that if you have good experiences at the water and you feel better at water, then you also want to take better care of those blue spaces because after all, it is the National Geographic magazine and that's one of their main goals. But so more is less. You get attention restoration, you get this sense of awe and perspective. You have that soft fascination where it's changing a little bit enough to keep watching, but not so much that you're nervous, like it's the right amount of unpredictability for you to be relaxed. Better sleep, lower stress, and more pain resilience, better social bonding. It's playful. You may have a sense of nostalgia if this was something from your youth or childhood. And overall, it just has this incredible compounding effect. And the article says there's something different about not just visiting the water, but living in it for a few days. So now when you come sailing with us, you'll have more ideas about what could go right.
Very good. Hey there, this is Eric. Before we wrap up, I just want to give you the sailing update. We are heading into our 2027 season. As of this moment for 2026, we do have one solo spot on our Norway trip in 2026. That's September 3 through 10th in Norway. It's going to be an epic, beautiful sail in the Lofoten Islands. And then we've also got one solo female spot on our Bahamas trip in November the 9th through the 14th. And that's going to be in the Abacos northern part of the Bahamas. So those are the only two spots that we have left in 2026. Otherwise, 2026 is sold out. If there's any trip you want to jump on, you can join the wait list. But 2027, here's what we have going on. January 25th through the 30th, we're going to be in the Virgin Islands. That trip is also sold out, but we might open up another one in that same month or February. So if you want to go sailing this winter in the Virgin Islands, you can join the wait list for that. Just ping us and we'll send you the link to join that. In the Bahamas, March 1st through 6th, we're going to be in the Bahamas. It will most likely be in the Exumas, which is the southern part of the Bahamas, sailing out of Nassau. April 5 through 10, we're going to be in Mexico. La Paz, beautiful, stunning snorkeling, sailing, one of my favorite spots. So Mexico, April 5 through 10. May 1st through 8th, we are going to be in Tahiti and Bora Bora. The plan is to do a one-way sail from an island just off of Tahiti called Raiatea. And we're going to sail the boat to Bora Bora, which is kind of like that iconic lagoon with those bungalows out over the water. Anyway, that's May 1st through the 8th. Then that's the end of our spring season, winter and spring, and we come over here to Europe. June 5 through 12th, we will be in Italy. And July 10th through the 17th, we will be in Greece. August 7th through the 14th, we'll be in Croatia. September 4th through the 11th, we'll be back in Italy. September 18th through the 25th, we'll be in Greece. These are our shoulder season trips. And then in November, we head back to the Virgin Islands, November 1 through 6, the British Virgin Islands. And then December 6th through the 11th, we'll be back in the Bahamas. So that is the 2027 lineup, the 2 empty spots for 2026. And if you want to join us for any of these, just hit reply to any one of our emails. You can DM us or contact us through social media, and would love to hear from you and see if this might be a fit for you. Would love to welcome you aboard.
We can talk about trips all day, but it's more fun to hear from someone who's been aboard. Here's a recent guest takeaway.
A Greek sailing trip has been on my list for 10 years. And I Googled first to find which one. And Awesome Factory showed up somehow, some way. Started following, learned about Eric, and just thought, this is the one. We're going to do it. And then I thought, July. So I'm going to preempt. If somebody asked me, should you go? I will say yes, and make sure your AC works on the first night. Even though my life is not so hard anymore as it used to be, I usually wake up in the morning with a sense of like anxiety. And I just get up and it goes away. But on this trip, I didn't have any when I woke up at all, on any day. And I'm trying to think, why was that? And it was, you are bearing the responsibility. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, and at home I bear responsibility for my clients. I always want to make sure that I'm helping them, and they have big jobs, so I didn't have to do that here. And I didn't. Another surprise was I didn't feel one bit anxious even in Athens. So I think traveling, I will not be an anxious traveler.